The Terma event in Carlisle in July 2018 was intended both as public spectacle and as a piece of historical research. This short film explores the experimental aspects of the Terma event and how these contribute to our understanding of Roman cavalry equipment and the Hippika Gymnasia. Described by Hadrian in his manual known as the Ars Tactica, and by Hadrian in his speech to the Roman army of Numidia. In particular, the Terma event provided an opportunity to experiment with the practicalities of the Roman saddle, which was designed to provide a stable seat for riding into combat without stirrups. Working examples of the Celto-Roman saddle used by Roman cavalry had only begun to be understood, reconstructed and tested for the first time in the 1980s. Since then, reenactors had used them in small numbers, but the dynamic of a mounted group as large as a Terma was bound to be different from that of smaller groups of riders. A Terma of around 30 men was the smallest tactical component of a Roman auxiliary cavalry unit and would have formed the basis for battlefield formations and probably patrols of the region around the frontier. All housed in the same barrack block, training and campaigning together, these men would have boasted a distinct esprit de corps within their parent unit. Hadrian tells us that, for the Hippika Gymnasia, the soldiers' equipment differed from that used in combat. Officers and the most skilled horsemen wore iron or gilded bronze face mask helmets with yellow horsehair plumes designed for show. Their dummy javelins and spears had blunted ends. The horses wore chamfrons to protect their heads in addition to their standard equipment of saddlecloth, saddle harness with decorated breast and haunch junctions, and bridle. During the practice day for all 30 riders before the main event, it was apparent that they quickly adapted to working together, and by the afternoon they were getting visibly smoother and tighter with every manoeuvre. It was also immediately noticeable to all who witnessed it that, although the arena was quite large, 30 horsemen filled it with ease. A Roman cavalryman held both his shield and his reins in his left hand, using his right hand to throw a javelin, thrust with a spear, or chop with his longsword. For safety reasons, our modern riders used arm straps to give them greater control over their shields. As described by Hadrian, the Hippika Gymnasia comprised 3 main phases. The first phase saw the entry of the competing Termae into the arena in a simulation of a surprise attack bursting from cover. The second part comprised a series of group manoeuvres demonstrating the skills of the soldiers in working together. The third phase focused on the individual skills of the best and most experienced riders. Although the exercises were originally devised as a competition between 2 Termae, the event in Carlisle comprised only one full Terma of 30 riders, which was divided into 2 squadrons of 15 riders each. It was not possible in the public performances to follow precisely the various phases and exercises described by Hadrian. In a special experimental session, separate from the public performances, the riders were asked to perform several additional manoeuvres. In breaks between performances, Maxime Petitjean interviewed some of the riders about their experiences. Their experience as horsemen and women potentially gave them valuable insights into the whole Roman system of equitation, and recording these was an important part of the project. The full Terma arrived in the arena with the Emperor Hadrian at their head and paraded around the arena in 2 ranks of 15. This enabled the riders to demonstrate their skill in wheeling the 2 ranks of horses in unison at either end of the arena. This is an important and difficult skill, essential in maintaining formation in battlefield situations. In the experimental session, instead of processing around the arena in 2 lines of 15 men, the riders were asked to perform it in 3 lines of 10. This was the way our evidence suggests cavalry in a Terma were sometimes deployed. Sure enough, with only a small amount of adjustment, the formation began to gel and showed that this was just as easy for them to do. The two ranks then split to perform two large contra-rotating wheels known as the Cantabrian Circle. As a battlefield manoeuvre, it was extremely versatile. It could be used offensively by cavalry to isolate an enemy and concentrate hurling javelins at them, whilst also serving a dual defensive purpose in making them a tricky moving target and preventing other cavalry breaking through their line, since each rider protected the back of the one in front of him. For the Terma event, only the more skilled and experienced riders carried out the actual attack, following each other round in a circle. Each in turn then hurled their javelins at a target comprising two cavalrymen in testudo formation, which meant covering themselves and their horses with their shields. The next request made of the riders and horses was more demanding. This was the formation the Romans called the wedge or cuneus, and it was found amongst both infantry and cavalry. It enabled troops to break through an enemy formation and split it asunder, almost invariably leading to disarray. This required all 30 cavalrymen to combine two staggered lines into one giant arrowhead, and then process around the arena at ever-increasing speeds. First walk, then trot, finally canter. The chase manoeuvre involves riders receiving an attack from opposing cavalry, then immediately attacking their opponent, chasing them with their javelins as they flee. The fleeing opponent would demonstrate their skill in fending off their pursuers by carrying their shield behind them. The Terma event typified what experimental archaeology is all about, seeing what is practicably possible within certain adjustable parameters. As such, it never tells you what did happen, only what might have happened. In all the exercises, the riders quickly learnt what needed to be done and performed the manoeuvres with impressive ease, honing their skills rapidly with each performance.